Welcome back. I'm Maria Ressa, and we're finishing the vice presidential debate with Jail Cornelia and Marites Vitug. Your thoughts, Marites?
Well, I think we should remember that the vice president is really not a spare tire in the
That's
Philippine
true.
setting because
That's
he or she is given a cabinet position. And we also must remember that there's only one vice president who became president via election. That's Joseph, post Marcos.
Right.
That's Joseph Estrada. Gloria Arroyo became president because of people power when the public deposed Estrada. Then she
Right.
ran again.
Right.
So I think it's really important. This is a good event. It helps us develop insights about these people who eventually may be our leaders in the future.
Jail.
I thought that towards the end, right, they were trying to project a message, a particular message that they are the best leaders, right? However, we cannot detach ourselves from the fact that the whole debate also showed their contradictions, right, in many ways, like Bongbong Marcos, for
Yes.
example. He wants to come across as a leader who will unify, but obviously he has a lot of questions to confront and to answer. Unless those questions are confronted, and we have seen that he has dismissed practically all of them, accusations about human rights and the martial law, for example, I am not sure to what extent he could really be a unifying leader. So it is very important that people like us, the electorate, will know how to disentangle ourselves from these rhetorics. And many of them have been very, very good at speaking.
And if you were to make a call
That's right, yeah.
on who won before we go to what the crowd is telling us on
Yeah.
social media and on the
Yeah.
polls, in your estimation, Marites?
Yeah, overall, it's really still Alan Peter Cayetano.
You're making the call for
Yeah,
Alan. Interesting.
there were many rounds, but in many of them, he stood out again because of his audacity.
That's right.
Yes.
maybe,
That's
he had there was some points he missed, but overall he really took a hit against his opponents, and he was very articulate. I think he's been that way since he became a senator. He's quite articulate.
Yeah,
Jail, do you agree?
Yeah, I share the same sentiment. Insofar as we would want a leader who's able to, and I already said this a while ago, who's able to confront even peers from the same party, and he has done that. However, I would also give credit to, say, Leni Robredo.
Oh, yes, yes.
Right? Although I don't think she had sufficient time to explain her. Well, she didn't really use up all her time.
Yes.
So she was very frugal with what she wanted to say.
Do you think it's also a matter of her style? She wasn't.
Possibly, she's not really
yeah.
pushy, and
Yes.
that's how she projects herself, and I suspect that's also her personality anyway, right? She's certainly the antithesis of Duterte, for example, right?
Right.
The exact opposite, right? So we see two personalities here, right? We've got Leni Robredo on one side, and then Cayetano, the combative, on the other side.
Bongbong Marcos. He and Cheese Escudero were the front runners, really ahead of. I mean, you had
Yeah, that's
almost a three-way tie going into this. How would you? Bongbong Marcos in the first few rounds really took a beating, but he came out with quite soaring rhetoric at the end, right? What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, Bongbong is very articulate, and to give credit to him, he never lost his cool.
That's
I mean,
right,
he did not punch Alan Cayetano.
No, we didn't.
So that's maybe. I think he expected this tonight
Yeah.
because he knew what to say
Yes.
and to dismiss. He was very good at dismissing
That's
all
right.
these
That's
issues.
right, and it's
Yes.
exactly what even his followers would do on social media, right? To simply dismiss. I suppose the followers also reflect the personality of the leader they choose to follow. But yeah, you're right. Of course, the disappointing part about this debate, I guess, is that ultimately we're still beholden to the motherhood statements that the conversations have generated. Right? although a lot of specific examples, concrete illustrations were offered, ultimately motherhood statements were, you know, employed just like that. And I think it's very dangerous to assess the success of a speaker simply based on rhetoric.
Correct. Which is in the end, though, that emotional kind of thing is maybe exactly how the voters are going to vote, right?
Possibly.
Let me show you how Twitter, this is as of, you can see the changes. So far throughout the entire debate, it's shifted from Leni Robredo to Alan Peter Cayetano. There was a period of time in the middle where Alan was way ahead. And then now we saw this switch. This is as of 7:34 p.m. This is 7:50 p.m., right? So you can see at 7:34, Leni Robredo had 33%. She was up ahead. Bongbong Marcos at 24%, Alan Cayetano at 24%, tied there. And then when you came down a little bit later, Leni Robredo took 37%, Alan Cayetano at 24%, and Bongbong Marcos at 22%. But interestingly enough, on our poll, so there's an online poll on Rappler, Alan Peter Cayetano ran away with it every single round. Could you tell me why you think this is the case? It actually kind of moves together with the things you guys have said, right?
Sure.
Yeah, Alan actually set the tone in
He
the
did,
first
didn't he?
round.
Yeah.
It was. I did not expect him to be so forceful in the beginning. So he set the tone, and then everybody seemed to follow what he did, except to a lesser degree. And then, Maria, I also like to say that Leni also did very well. She may not have had the style of Alan Cayetano, but she had, as I like to say, authenticity, which is easy for people to connect to her. That you feel that she's telling the truth.
She also had facts on file.
Exactly.
In her fingertips, right?
Yes.
That's true. That's true.
Jail.
In fact, my gut feel is that ultimately, although Professor Claire David at the start of our program said that there's a lot of preference for somebody who can discipline, right?
Yes.
Our society because of all the crime and the drug problem and all that. Ultimately, I have a feeling that the motherly character of Leni would carry her through, because what we see in her is not we see from her is not simply the combative one who's out there to kill people or to put people down. She's also very much interested in letting people know that she knows what people are going through, in particular transportation, for example, right? And I think that would resonate with a lot of people.
Interesting. The last thing I want to show our audience is a real-time sentiment analysis. Again, you can go back to this page later on, but this is as of 7:33. The real-time ones are back on the page. But so we talked about who people were talking about,
Yeah,
right? This
sure.
now is positive or negative descriptions of them. Her candidate. So what's interesting is you can see, and this is on Facebook and Twitter, right? From Senti, Alan Cayetano, while a lot of people felt he set the goal, he won it, the positive versus negative is actually, negative is higher, right? So you have 30% negative, 20.3% positive.
So they didn't like.
As a sociologist, you were talking about whether or not this could backfire. Is this part of that, or you think this is just something that will wash out?
Well, 49.8% are neutral.
Yes,
That's
right.
very
So that's a
challenging,
big.
right?
That's
That's a big chunk. So I suspect that, of course, this is not completely representative, right, of all
Correct,
electorate.
correct,
So we have
correct.
to be very careful. Also, it depends on the kind of audience that Rappler has. But it's very telling that you've got practically 50% of your audience neutral about Alan Cayetano. We have given him due credit for his fierceness, but apparently. not
So this
everybody
is based on
convinced.
their. This is not them telling. This is based on words that they used,
That's
right?
right, yeah,
So
sure.
it's actually done by Senti, which is from Lasal naman sila. Cheese Escudero also, this is interesting, again, 54% neutral,
Neutral.
right? Meaning they can't tell from the words, but negative also was. And I think when I was watching on social, they were talking about his cadence of speaking, more the
True, true.
form, not necessarily the substance.
True.
Gringo Anasan, 41% neutral, 40% negative,
Negative.
and then
Round it up,
40.6,
41% already.
41%, and then 18% positive. Bongbong Marcos, now this is
Positive.
interesting, right? Quite positive. In fact, I think he has the highest positive of anyone.
Maybe that's the underdog thing. Or maybe he acquitted himself in the end.
It would, again, he had, of all of them, he had soaring rhetoric. And
That's right,
Lenny,
yeah, he
Lenny
said,
had a
yeah.
rallying punch
Yes,
by
he
just
knows,
her
yeah.
twist of, vote for the woman. But Bongbong Marcos was, of the many of them, not lost in details, was able to pull out and then actually.
He seemed not to be affected by all the
That's
criticisms.
Right. That's right. In contrast to how Binay behaved, for example. In the
Yes,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yes, yes.
Maybe
But-
he has been immunized. What do you call that? Vaccinated.
Inoculated. from all
Inoculated.
this.
So I will leave this for a second, and we're going to go to our reporters
Sure.
who have covered them before I come back to you for your closing statements. I'm going to find a mic. So which one are you on? Our reporters have been covering them, and they've been hard at work actually transcribing and writing stories that you're seeing on Rappler. I'm going to go to Alan Peter Cayetano, the woman who's covered him and spent time with him. She gave us what she thought would happen during the debate. Pia, I'm giving you the mic. Pia Renada, how did he do? How did Alan Cayetano do?
I wasn't surprised that he was aggressive because he always shows that side during Senate hearings. So I was expecting him he told me that he would be working on the corruption angle. He would try to differentiate himself against other candidates by pressing the issue that why were you not in the Senate hearings while I led the Senate hearings.
Right.
So that was not a surprise. But what was a surprise was the magnitude of how he did it. He was so gung-ho about it.
Right.
And it was amazing. He took control of the debate. And I think he had nothing to lose and he wanted to make an impression. And if you saw what he did, he hit on Marcos first. He
Right.
slammed Marcos right away. And Marcos is a
Yeah.
front runner in the polls.
Correct.
So he was hitting high. He was trying to shoot for the stars.
Right.
And if you notice, he was hitting Marcos on the faults of the senator, not the father, of the son and not the father, because he did say in interviews that it's no use trying to pin the blame on the Senator Marcos because it does nothing to reduce his ratings. If
Right.
you keep harping on the sins of the father, it does not really help bring down Senator Marcos. So what he chose to do was to slam him in terms of the corruption issue. That's the strategy he employed during the debate. So I think it worked for him, but I
Right.
also saw comments on social media calling him out on being repetitive on the political will aspect, and
True.
also he was.
Yes, on
Some
message.
people were turned off by him being too aggressive. It was like he kept criticizing the administration, his fellow bets, but he did not really have content in terms of platform, in terms of what he would do, what his plans were, how feasible, how practical are the campaign promises he and his running and Duterte have been making. So
Right.
I felt that it was all fireworks, but I believe not as much meat as I was expecting. He did throw out some statistics, but again, maybe it was also strategy. Maybe he was just looking for a way to outshine the rest, and maybe
Yes.
citing statistics or platform wouldn't help him get to that. Another interesting thing I noticed was that some people might actually like him for being aggressive because that's the kind of persona Duterte is.
Yeah.
So people like Duterte's aggression. So to see Cayetano be just as aggressive in terms of speaking could be telling Duterte supporters, hey, maybe this is our guy because he's also a fighting character. He's the kind of guy who would be a good tandem with Duterte. So maybe he was also convincing those undecided Duterte supporters to side with him.
He also challenged Marcos on the issue of who Duterte is supporting, right? And then Marcos turned it around on him. What did you make of that?
That was very interesting. I think he was not very good or suave in addressing that issue. and I think he was caught off guard. So yeah, he could have. But I mean, this kind of question was asked to him even already in ambush interviews. But to have been asked by Marcos himself,
Right.
probably threw him off. But yeah, it's still people will have to decide on that on themselves, so you can't really say anything.
Our online poll, while it's still a very small group of people who went in because it was real time as it was going on, right? There is a very engaged audience and self-selective. Every single round they chose Cayetano. We don't know what the last round is yet, but every single round leading to the last one, Cayetano was the winner. Is that surprising to you?
No, not really, because I believe Duterte supporters are also rallying behind him. A lot of them are. So Duterte's social media presence is very pronounced. So I think that helped Cayetano as well. And also because Cayetano was such a newsmaker during the debate. So even those who wouldn't normally tweet about Cayetano would probably find the need to tweet about him because he was so newsworthy.
Wonderful. Okay, Pia, did anything surprise you?
No, not really. Just the magnitude.
You've been following him for a long time. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to ask Bongbong Marcos's handler, the reporter who's covering Bongbong Marcos, Patty Pachon, as they wheel separately in. Patty, what did you think of Bongbong Marcos?
Well, for Senator Bongbong Marcos, I find his performance consistent with how he was when I covered him with the Go Negosyo Forum.
Okay.
He knows his statistics. He's been like that in debates. What I found surprising was when he asserted his association with Mayor Duterte. I mean, he's not the... When we ask him during press conferences, he's very safe with his answers. But this is the first time he actually asserted his association with Duterte.
Did anything he did surprise you?
Well, he surprised me with his answer of his acknowledging the human rights violations. But it's kind of safe for me because he's acknowledging it for all the administrations. It's not specific to his father's rule.
Right. And the fact that he was kind of a punching bag for Alan Peter Cayetano
Yes.
at the beginning, were you surprised by how he kept his cool?
Not so much. He's always been that cool. Actually, when I was covering him, the only time that he lost his cool was when he's asked with the martial law, things about the martial law. But I guess he has prepared himself. I mean, he has been asked that since he
right.
declared his bid, since the start of the campaign period. So I think the whole team who's helping him prepare has actually prepared for these questions.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. As they swap chairs. This is the best part about the Rappler newsroom. You can roll around. Camille Elavia is coming in, and I'm giving her the mic. She follows Grace Poe and Cheese Escudero. What did you make of Cheese?
Well, I wasn't surprised by how Cheese performed in this debate. That's exactly the Cheese that I've been seeing, I've been hearing, I've been covering for the past 10 or so months. Exactly the way he answers questions, exactly the way he does not directly answer questions, and also the way he would also, the way he would try to deflect the questions. Yeah, that's the term. And I can say that for this debate, he was outshined by some of the vice presidential candidates. I don't know if it's related to the surveys now because he's very calculated.
Yeah.
If it's a strategy because of the close numbers, because Marcos is being attacked by almost everyone there. And for Cheese, he's just there watching, and if he's asked, he's going to answer, but he doesn't ask questions to other vice presidential candidates, not as much as Alan did or
Right.
Lenny did.
He didn't really punch at anyone, right? He was,
I think it was a calculated move.
Okay.
Maybe he doesn't want to be portrayed negative, or he doesn't want emotions to be too high about anything about him because of it's different now because of the tight race
Right.
between him and Bongbong. And
What is
also Lenny.
what is the mood inside in their campaign when you're with them? The last time that you saw Cheese, for example.
Right now, as I said earlier, they usually campaign separately because Cheese has to work on his numbers in several key provinces, while Grace has to do the same thing. But when they're together, it's chill. It's they do not really campaign from like say 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. depending if they have political rallies. Of course, if they have political rallies, they do it at night, so it extends until 9 p.m. And we tried to ask them, why do we end up early lately? And they just say that they have to talk to other groups as well.
Right.
But I'm talking to some of the reporters, and they said that their candidates work from morning till evening. So that's where we see the difference in strategies. And I think for this debate, I wanted to hear Cheese's stand on Bongbong Marcos, but he wasn't asked about it. Because if us reporters, we would ask him about it, but
Yes.
he wouldn't really answer directly. I was waiting for him to be asked about Bongbong because his father was an ally of the father.
Yeah, of Bongbong
So
Marcos.
I was hoping that he could be asked directly about it and he would answer in the same way, but it didn't happen.
Feel free to jump in if you guys have any. I forgot to. Okay, thank you. I am going to, who do we go to? Bea Cupin, who covers Lenny Robredo, is sick. So we're giving you our managing editor, Glenda Gloria, with the mic to take our other vice presidential candidates.
Well, Lenny Robredo started a bit slow. I think she spoke in a way that she started talking about her legislative agenda, her track record as a lawmaker, which is good. She's very calm, as opposed to the likes of Cayetano, for example, or Bongbong Marcos. That's why in the first phase of the debate, she was mostly quiet, or appeared to be quiet, and therefore she was unable to articulate a lot of the things that she has intimate knowledge of. So I guess, but she finally found her groove in the last part of the debate when she began to finally connect her local experience, both as a wife of a former Naga City mayor and the fact of also as a former lawmaker. But that's the final phase of the debate. But maybe she probably earned some points in that kind of demeanor that she showed today.
In contrast to Alan Peter, right? And Gringo Anasan and Trillanes.
Yeah, well, Trillanes.
Your
beat
two
his-
military men.
Yes, beat his mentor this time.
Trillanes beat his
came
mentor.
out more aggressive. She was straight to the point. She was a good performer today in this debate. He was very specific in his stand on the maritime dispute with China, and he showed that somehow he prepared for this debate in terms of even tackling issues on the judiciary, for example, as opposed to a very tentative, very general, very broad strokes Gringo Onasan. Of course, understandably, he was also put on the defensive because of the accusations against his standard bearer who was there to support him, but whose presence, I don't know if it helped Gringo or probably pointed out more the problems facing the tandem. So Gringo was neither here nor there, which is a surprise given that he was his bombastic self as a rebel soldier. So he's a shadow of his old self. And so Trillanes beat him this time.
Clarissa, David, and Jael, Marites to a degree, actually all said they felt that the two people who will benefit from this are Alan Peter Cayetano and Lenny Robredo, and that they would take votes away from Marcos and Cheese Escudero. Do you agree with this kind of assessment? And if not, why not?
Well, I think even among editors, and maybe Marites can also explain that the editors already have a verdict as to who won the entire debate. And yeah, it was a toss-up between, of course, Cayetano really showed skills as a debater. He also spoke about things that really resonate with people because they remember him to be an anti-corruption advocate. It's not, he has a track record, has the sound bites and the Senate investigations to prove it. And then Lenny was very solid in terms of knowledge base. For example, she's very clear in her stand on very specific programs of government, but not very aggressive. So it's a study in contrast, but at the same time very appealing to a certain block of voters, I would say.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm going to give it back to Marites. Why don't you tell us the editors, who the editors calling it for? That's what Glenda said. You would, or would you rather I give it back to Glenda?
But I haven't read everything.
Okay,
Sorry.
Glenda will also then do the editor's call. We
Yes.
are
Di ko pa
Rappler, like it as it has done in the presidential debates, based on their statements, is making a call on who won the debates. Go ahead.
Yes, so Rappler editors named Cayetano the overall winner in this debate. He was most consistent in talking about his and his presidential candidates' platforms. And in fact, he was very consistent in just naming Duterte.
Yep.
You know, that this is a tandem that you are voting for. In heated exchanges with Bongbong Marcos, and those were the highlights of the debate, he was able to cite specific figures and Marcos' ill-gotten wealth, for example. We just note some inconsistencies as far as Cayetano's declarations and statements are concerned. I think, for example, and I'm sorry that I have to
This is
look at the notes now.
the pork. Is it the
Yes.
pork barrel?
This is on the
Dynasty.
yes, on the political dynasty, and then he did hit prominent families in government, like the Cojuangcos, the Aquinos, despite being from a prominent family himself. His father was a senator. He and his sister Pia are sitting as senators together, ironically. At the same time, his wife is mayor of Taguig. So that's a dynasty issue. He also said, talking about injustice of fund collection in the Philippines, nagpapagawa ang gobyerno ng kalsada pero hindi pinagbabayad ang mga may kotseng gumagamit ng kalsada. Pero bakit ang mga magsasaka pinagbabayad ng irrigation fee? In fact, there's a road users tax. It's a little-known fund that the Arroyo administration, which he was very critical of, used for her 2004 campaign. So those are some of just the inconsistencies. But otherwise, he won the debate.
Wonderful. Thank you. Your thoughts, Marites? Did you agree?
Oh, actually, overall, yes. But as we said earlier, it's really Cayetano and then Robredo, but with different styles. What I just wanted to point out is in the last question, second to the last question, they were asked what cabinet position would they prefer.
Yeah.
And it was very telling that Cayetano said he wants to be the agenda setter without naming any specific cabinet post. And I think he wants to be the little president.
That's what it means.
Because
Interesting.
Duterte is not a policy wonk, he's not a thinker, he's just a doer. So I think that's his place, wherein he will, if Duterte wins, and if he wins, then he would be sort of the right-hand person of Duterte. So it's just very telling that he knows his place in the tandem. Well, I appreciate the others who were more forthright, like Marcos saying he wanted labor. That's a surprise
Yes,
to me.
yes.
And
Actually, that was the
I
good
didn't
part,
know
right?
that he was interested in labor issues.
Yeah.
And that Lenny was very keen on anti-poverty.
Streamlining the different processes and
Exactly.
programs concerning
Putting them
anti-poverty.
together.
Yeah.
And Trillanes wanted to head the ILG. And of course, Escudero was evasive.
Yes.
So I think that's partly revealing of the character or the thinking of these candidates.
That's true.
Jair.
That's true. Assessing the debate as a whole,
Yes.
right?
Actually, before we go there, can I ask you, earlier at the start you said that it could work against Cayetano.
Cayetano, yes.
Yes.
The editors made the call for Cayetano today, and then
That's right.
online,
That's
it didn't seem. Although this is interesting, this one just came in. This is the very last part, and look how close Leni Robredo now is number one by the online poll. She's at 41.58%, but Alan Peter is so close at 36.2.
And then the third one is Bongbong Marcos.
Bongbong Marcos, right?
But far behind, right?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think
Yes.
Lenny really made up for the lackluster, initially the lackluster performance in the later part, and I think her last line really
Yeah.
grabbed us all. May the best woman win.
That's
I think that's a
right.
very memorable line.
That's right.
In this debate.
And in fact, that's also the message that she's sending now through her TV ads, for example, right? That babae siya, na naunawaan niya ang karanasan ng mga babae. So that is very, very, very still consistent with the message that that she gave us at the end of the debate. So in a way, I think when we assess the entire debate, we see that we have seen that all these candidates were trying to project some consistency, in as much as there were, like Glenda said, right, that there were contradictions, and Rappler was fast enough in identifying all these factual errors. They were very clear on the kinds of messages that they wanted to convey, at least insofar as maybe Lenny Robredo is concerned, and perhaps Bongbong Marcos and Cayetano. Trillanes is making a comeback after all his lackluster performance also in the previous surveys. Did you want me to talk about? My assessment of the debate as a whole? Also?
Please.
Yeah.
Actually, do you mind? What I will do first is go to Kamala
Okay,
and
okay.
its running of and what we expect to happen. Let me find the mic. Is Paterno around? He's Paterno.
This is
Oh,
broadcast.
Paterno, come here. Paterno, where are you? Is he there? Can you guys get Paterno? Okay, why don't we go first? Where is he? Can you get Paterno? Justin. Can you get Paterno? Sorry guys, Paterno. Paterno? Great, you can actually get Can I get you on camera? Come on, come on. So we've just been talking about the debate. You look tired. Come here. I'm going to give you a chair. And could you just tell us, I'm going to give you the mic and just tell us where Comelec stands today, I mean in terms of the elections that are coming up. Oh, okay. He's,
Is this being
okay.
broadcast?
It is. I just tried him on. I think he looks very tired. Why don't we go to Jail first then, and let's talk about your assessment of the debate.
Sige. Kasi you showed us those stats, right?
Yes.
Called by Rappler from all your viewers. I suppose Rappler's audience, people who have seen this on Rappler, are keen on debates and contestations, right? Clarity. But I'm not sure if this mirrors the sentiments of everybody else in our society.
Right.
The research that we found, that we administered, the study we administered, the survey that we administered last year, this is part of Vote of the Poor, shows us that platform and experience in governance are not really the top priorities or attributes that voters are looking for. At the end of the day, I think I mentioned this at the onset, people are looking for concern or empathy. People are looking for integrity. Are they trustworthy? And do they have principio or principled stance? And the debate, or at least this particular debate, has to be tested against these attributes. Did they show principio? Did they show empathy? And did they show integrity? Which could explain Bongbong Marcos's demeanor all this time. Right? That he had a composure, and that right at the end, forget all the contradictions that his life embodies. Forget all those, because ultimately what matters is that the message is the message. He is the message. What he says is the message. Forget all the historical revisionism. The point is that he is there, he is here, concerned for the poor.
Right.
Whether people see that as trustworthy is another thing. Because in a way, we see that, say, from Lenny Robredo, whose story is. That's why, in many ways, she was very quiet because there were, as we said, right, there was not much that could be used against her. So to go back to Rappler statistics, I suspect that our viewers appreciate debate, and so they could appreciate also Cayetano's fierceness or Lenny Robredo's, fierceness. But whether this would resonate with everybody else in the population, I think needs to be tested and seen.
The Senti takes it from all of Twitter and all of Facebook, which goes beyond Rappler. So, but that only gives you the sentiment analysis for each one, and as we saw, there are a lot of undecideds in that one. Your final thoughts, Marita.
I think learning from the presidential debate, this debate has I think, enrich the campaign
Sure.
discourse. Even if this is only one debate,
Yeah.
it has forced us to spend 3 or more hours really listening to them.
And we were glued to it.
Yes,
That's right. We
yes.
couldn't go to the toilet, for example.
This is the hardest time to take a break.
Maybe in the future, in the next presidential elections, we should have another presidential debate. But I was thinking maybe the president and the VP together in a debate. I don't know, but it's a good beginning. Yeah.
It is a very good beginning. It has set the tone. I wanted to say also, I mean,
Please,
are you going to
please.
close it already?
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to say that, you know, in as much as we appreciate confrontations, right?
Yes.
We also mentioned when Claire was still around that people are not looking for confrontations in general, right? In our research in Tacloban, and certainly in the other sites that where we are for Vote of the Poor, we noticed that people actually don't like it when people are assailing each other. That is why I feel that Cayetano's demeanor might ultimately backfire. I may be wrong, but at least as far as our research is concerned, I suspect that it might backfire because people are looking for unifying leaders. This is why, again, Bongbong Marcos made a very wise, I may not necessarily agree with him and his positions, but that's a very powerful statement anyway, right? That he would like to be a leader who unifies people.
Do you think there's any change in the character of the Filipino voter given the internet and technology? And then given that, is it 49% of the voters are between the ages of 18 and 34?
Depends on the statistics.
Yeah,
Some
and that
figures,
means that they're affected by this. And I guess it goes back to the social media make a difference.
That's
in
right,
this,
you know,
So is this a different generation, or you expect that these result findings that you did from last year, will they hold all the way to that?
That's right. You see, as we said at the onset, right, that we have the adults.
The adults?
Yeah, no, the adult people like you, I suppose.
Yeah. That's I'm
Or
older. No,
or-
baby boomer. I know.
Baby
I'm a
boomer.
baby boomer.
Are you a
Ended the
baby boomer?
boomer.
Okay, I'm still a millennial, borderline. Okay. We tend to think that the young people are not thinking and therefore they are susceptible to all this revisionism, right? But as surveys have shown, it's not really the young people who are actually supportive, let's say, of Bongbong Marcos. According to this survey that I have, it's 38% of 18 to 24-year-old voters, first-time voters, are in favor of Jesus Cordero. Only 20% of them are actually in favor of Bongbong Marcos, whereas 36% of these of 35 to 44, the generation immediately ahead of mine, are in favor of Bongbong Marcos. So, see, this is a generation that perhaps underwent the martial law and the EDSA revolution. So I think that is a very important consideration, right? So
You know, I actually think though that this generation, the younger ones, since they're more connected,
that's what I
will
wanted to
have
say.
access to more information. And the question I would have is, how do they process that information? And then, is there a danger of them moving like a pack? Right, because of the way the internet works, I guess. You know, your thoughts also, Marites, because
But they will get
you have a lot of followers on Facebook.
they will get a lot of contradictory information.
Does it force them to think more? Does it force them to be more self-aware or no?
Oh, I don't know, but it really depends on how the judgment or evaluation they will make of the information they access. Because there's so much, and we really don't know. Do they really know how credible
Yes.
the sources of information are? Because there are different viewpoints. So I'm not sure if it will make them think harder, or will it confuse them, or will they just go, as you said, with the pack?
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, let me draw from our study, right?
Yes.
I am not sure whether we can really say that there is a generational vote, because I think one of the bigger uh, I suppose, issues for our population has to do with social inequality, right? It is not generational inequality that matters more. Perhaps in other societies, like aging societies like Japan or the Nordic countries, there is such issue as generational justice and generational inequality. But in this, in our society, predominantly young, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's still class that matters.
Class.
Class
Right.
does matter. Nicole Curato, a friend of mine, would downplay, if I read her right, would downplay the role of class. But I still think that when you think about concern for the poor, personal integrity principled stance, right? These are very emotional, you know, concerns are attributes that people are looking for. You would think that if it were for people like us, platform matters more, for example. So that is very telling. So looking at the data that we have, right, age doesn't seem to matter when it comes to all these. Concern for the poor, personal integrity, principled stance, or principio. So what might matter more is economic class, because you see, well, again, I can't flash this to everyone. 76.2% of those in Class E would prefer concern for the poor, because that's precisely what they are about. Whereas
Right.
only 53% of Class A, B, and C would
care about
identify
that.
that, would care about that. So you see, you have that. So it appears, in other words, that class matters more.
Do you agree?
My question now is, did the debate show that? Did
Yes.
the debate bring
Yeah,
that
that's
out?
exactly the question we
so,
want to ask now,
Yes.
yeah.
At least
That's
this
true.
is
That's true.
just one event in a 3-month campaign.
Yes.
So this is just one
That's true.
of the
That's true.
events that will bring out the thinking of the candidates.
That's true. Assuming that everybody watched it,
Yes.
assuming that everybody is aware of all the issues.
To the three things that you talked about, principio and
Empathy and integrity.
So actually, these go to the non-rational side, right? A lot of the studies have said that up to 80% of how people make decisions in our lives, not even just elections, is based on how we feel, not what we think. So did you see that in this one? I mean, you made the call for Alan Peter in this, but did you see
I did,
these
because I'm
three
middle
things?
class and I'm a
Yeah.
professor, and so I prefer
But these
clarity on
intangibles,
issues.
in
right?
these
Yeah.
intangibles, was he the winner? Did any of them surprise you? Did something surprise you in terms of the intangibles we mentioned here?
I think most of them said that they'll work for the poor.
Yeah,
from
they
the,
did.
From the
From the
beginning.
very
That's
beginning.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Alan.
Practically all of them.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in that sense the message is blur. You know, the division
Yes.
is.
So
among
how do
all of
we
them is blurred.
differentiate one's empathy from the other? And that's where your integrity comes in.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
the character, the consistency, the truthfulness.
And that's where I could go against what you said, which would
Yeah,
be
sure.
that could be where Alan Peter took a step forward, because he kept pushing it back,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Again, it's an interesting time.
It is. It is. It is. And I can't wait for the next round of surveys. You know? The next
to
rounds,
reflect,
you know,
to reflect this.
That's true. Whether this debate has clearly affected our electorate. That is very, very exciting. Right?
Wonderful. So we've come to the end of our time period. You should continue going back. The stories will be coming out in the next few hours. You're going to have the Twitter share of voice, Facebook activity, the online poll. Those are going to go on. The story on the editor's call and why, that'll be pushed out, as well as our panelists' call. So stay tuned. 1 month before before D-Day, before Election
And
Day.
our OFWs have started to vote.
Oh, that's right.
Maria.
Yes.
April
correct,
9,
correct,
yesterday.
Correct.
Wonderful. Well, we want to say thank you, Jael, for
Marisa.
coming
Marina, for having me here.
today, and Marites.
Thank you
I
for
nev-
this forever debate.
A very long debate.
This is much more preferable.
Then the
The-
short
The
Form and
previous one.
substance, right?
That's
It
right,
actually
form
put
and
form and
substance,
substance
yeah.
together. It was.
Not to mention that the second presidential debate was late, started very, 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 very late.
That was also fun in its own way. Though. well, thank you very much. I'm Maria Ressa. Oh, I'm turning here. So thank you for joining us. This is Maria Ressa. We're at Raptor HQ. Stay tuned. It's going to be an incredible month ahead.